Good morning. Okay, the time is now 8:10, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Those with cell phones, please either silence them or turn them off. I'm going to ask if everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is behind you. And when we finish, if there are any veterans that are here, I'm going to ask you to continue to remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If we have any veterans that are standing, I want to thank you very much for your service, and would ask everyone here to just give you a little applause. Thank you very much. Those who are not registered voters need to be behind the railing in the back, and everyone in the front should have a red voter card. If you have that with you, please hold that up now so we can see it. And if you see anyone seated around you or next to you that does not have one of those cards, they need to move up back. Also, thank you. When we are going to be doing, if we have any standing votes, please keep in mind that the standing votes, when they're counted, will be counted with everyone needs to be inside that back railing. Anyone who is in the back will not be counted. My name is Chuck Mitchell, and I am your moderator. To my immediate left is my prime assistant, Helen Hanks, and to her left is Cindy Reinhardt, town clerk. Today I have also appointed 3 assistant moderators. Linda Burns, where are you, Linda? Right down here, and she is going to be helping with any voting. Sandra Steadfast Marshall, she is going to be helping also and running the projector today. And Bob Hardy. Bob is right there. He's also an assistant moderator. Will be helping with standing counts as well as any ballot votes. To my right is the chair of the select board, John Scanlon, over here, and he will introduce the rest of the select board.
Hi, good evening, or good morning. It will be evening before we leave. To my left is Catherine Dawson, Pat Constantino, we have Peter Fogg, and Joe Desmond.
On my left is your right, Jane Alden, who is chair of the budget committee, and she will introduce the members of the budget committee.
To my right, Christine Dembski is my right. To my left is Dick Olson and Ted Gargano. Billy Lawrence is not here today, but he's also on the committee.
And certainly, last but not least, down at the far end to my right, your left is our town finance director, Jim Pearson, and our town administrator, Jeannie Forrester. You'll notice that in the town reports there is 2 pages back to back of the moderator's rules. I would like to mention a few of those right now before I go any further. I would like to think that the word for today would be brevity. Brevity. Try to be as short as you can. We have 2 bond issues today, and those bond issues, according to state law, each one needs to be open for a period of 1 hour. I am also considering right now that there will be 2 other ballot votes, and in order to keep things moving, if people could speak briefly, in the moderator's rules, you will also note that there is a 2-minute time limit for speaking to a motion or asking questions. Someone who is presenting a motion has up to 5 minutes for a presentation. Sometimes when things seem to ramble on, people want to close debate. Please be aware that you cannot stand at the microphone and get the microphone and speak for or against an issue, and then at the end of your statement, move to close debate. That is not allowable. If you get to the microphone and want to close debate, people must do so immediately. Tabling a motion. Some people have this feeling that tabling a motion is a way of killing something. It isn't. If somebody were to table a motion, it means it can be brought up at any time later in this meeting, right up until the meeting is adjourned. If someone wanted to kill a motion, they would actually want to move to indefinitely postpone. And if an article has been moved to indefinitely postpone, then it would be dead for the entire meeting. Another one, restricting reconsideration. Sometimes also thought of protecting a vote. If you move to restrict reconsideration, that means that an article could not be brought back, or no one in the future could reconsider that particular vote later on in the meeting. If someone were to move to reconsider a motion, let me just give you a little bit of brief knowledge on what the intent of reconsidering is. Someone who supposedly voted on the prevailing side of a motion has new information. The motion to reconsider it was never brought forward. Simply get a chance to vote again on an item that you might have lost a vote on. So, according to Robert's rules, which is what I got to use as guideline, I will ask anyone who moves to reconsider a vote whether or not they voted on the prevailing side. If they have said they have not, then I would not entertain that motion, but find someone else maybe who did. I intend to allow everyone to speak. Oh, one other thing. If a motion were to pass on reconsideration, it could not be brought back at this meeting. It would have to be brought back at another town meeting, which would be held at least 7 days from today's date. I want everyone to be able to speak that wants to speak. So if there's someone who gets back in line and they are others in line that have not spoken, I'm going to ask to let the people who have not yet spoken please go to the microphone. Anyone who has questions, please direct the questions that you would have through the moderator, and then I will direct those questions and find the appropriate person for a response. You will also notice that in rules 23 and 24, that any decision made by the moderator can be overruled by this group. Voting on most warrant articles will probably be by voice vote. If there is a question, I'll have it done by standing vote. If there is anything in the meeting that I'm really unsure of, I will take a short recess and consult with some folks up here so that I can come back with a correct ruling. Anyone who speaks at the microphone must state their name before speaking. This is a state law, and it's also something that our town clerk who's keeping minutes needs to make sure to have your name. A procedure that sometimes happens is for the moderator to read the entire warrant. Without any objection, I will read each article before we get to it, but I won't start by reading the entire warrant. Is there any objection? I just think it would be. If we get to a warrant article, which is a bond issue, such as number 3 and number 4, if we have to keep the polls open for a full hour, it would be my intention to go on to another warrant article let's just hypothetically say that Article 3 has to be open for an hour. And after 10 or 15 minutes, everyone in the room has voted. I would recommend that we all go on and move on to, say, Article 5. It is legal to go ahead and discuss other warrant articles and vote on those other warrant articles during that 1 hour period. But I would like to keep things moving if at all possible. When we have the warrant article votes that require a paper ballot, I'm going to ask people to file up this way. You go up to the supervisors of the checklist. You bring your voter card with you. They will punch it. They will hand you a ballot. And the ballots are simply yes or no. Mark the ballot. There are some booths up there if you'd like to do it in private. Some pens are in the booth. And the voting box is over by the water fountain. And there will be a color copy of the ballot on the outside of the box. So the first one is kind of like a fluorescent green color, and that will be used on warrant article number 3. And by the way, the state laws on this are fold your ballot in half and hand the ballot, your ballot, to a moderator or assistant moderator who will then place it in the ballot box. Yes?
Mr. Moderator, can both warrant articles be open at the same time, or does it have to, we have to finish the first hour of Article 3 before we can entertain Article number 4?
I believe that, by the way, that was Scott Davis, and he's asking whether or not we could start on Article 4 during the first hour if Article 3 had to be open for an hour, and the answer is yes, we could start on Article 4 during that first hour. Go to the mic, please.
Lucinda Hope, Lancaster Hill Road. If you look at the end of Article 3, going on to Article 4 depends on the result of Article 3.
I understand that if Article 3 were to fail, then Article 4 would not need to be brought to the floor. That is probably something that Article 4 should not be brought until we know the results of Article 3, but what we could do would be to move on to Article 5. Are there any questions before we proceed? At this point, I would like to, yes.
When we're discussing Article 3 of Article 4, my name is Stanley Brown, the other bill.
Hello. I'm just asking, we're talking about Article 3, Article 4, Article 5. In the book, we have Article 04 as to see if the district will vote to raise the Budget Committee's recommendations. And what we were given when we walked in is Article 4 is for the police department. What are we talking about? We have some clarification as to what articles we're discussing. Why this was handed to us as we walked in instead of in...
I haven't seen what you were handed when you walked in, but I can see that.
One is a presentation and one is the presentation that they're going to talk about.
Okay, over the last several years, there has been a study committee on the police station. You will find that Article 3 actually is for the purchase of land. A presentation will be made on that. If Article 3 passes, then the discussion on the police station, which would be Article 4, would be done separately. That's in Article 4, and that's what you were given. At this point, I would like to get a motion from the floor to at least accept the moderator's rules for the meeting. Moved by Pat Constantino. Do we have a second? Dane? Thank you very much. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, Article 3.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to move Article 3 to the floor for discussion.
Moved and seconded to move Article 3. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to approve the purchase of approximately 4.586 acres for the purpose of building a new Tilton Police Station and/or other municipal purposes located off of Sanborn Road. The acreage is in the northerly portion of the land described in a boundary survey dated January 22nd, 2019. It's presently owned by the Roman Catholic Bishop of Manchester. A corporation sold tax map R23 Lot 5, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $350,000 for the purchase, and to authorize the issuance of no more than $350,000 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue and to negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon. Pat, you were the mover of the article. Would you like to speak to it?
Mr. Moderator, although I'm passionately in favor of this, I'd like to move that Chairman Kevin LaChapelle of our Police Building Committee speak on this.
Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good morning, everyone. This day has been long coming for our committee, and we're excited to be here. I'm sure there was some sleepless nights last night. The first thing I'd like to do, my name is Kevin LaChapelle. I'm a taxpayer here in Tilton. I've lived in Tilton for over 20 years, and I've sat on several committees throughout my tenure working in municipal government and here in the town. And I will say that this committee that I currently chair is powered by passion. We have a very well-rounded committee, and I'm going to recognize them, and if they could stand briefly and just so they can be recognized. Eric Tyra is our vice chair. Chuck Drew. Tom Damon. If he stood, he'd recognize him because he's 7 feet tall. But, Ken Dane. Jason Wright. Pat Constantino is the select board rep. Non-voting members are Captain Ryan Martin, Sergeant Nate Buffington, and Town Administrator Jeannie Forrester. We'd also like to recognize all those committees. I believe there's 3 committees that had been in progress since 2006. So here we are in 2019, and we're the 3rd committee that has recognized the need for this project. So, Mr. Moderator has allowed me to, I apologize for my back being to those that are there at the head table, but I have 5 minutes and we're going to go quick. We evaluated 173 properties throughout the Route 3 corridor. Our original task was up in Industrial Park Drive. For those who have been around and been to those town meetings, you know that there were lengthy discussions, there were votes, there was tons of other work that was done. And we spent 3 meetings at Industrial Park Drive. We physically walked the properties up there, and we felt that it was our responsibility to move on from Industrial Park Drive. We did not feel that that was feasible for us as taxpayers, and it would not be to our benefit to spend that kind of money to have a police station. And we quickly realized that that was really not the site that we were looking for. So we went back to the drawing board. We physically workshopped 173 properties, and we honed that down by these 4 categories: centrally located in our community, the availability of the property, the cost of the property, and the lot size and viability for a police department, or a police station, I should say. We narrowed it down to 27 Sanborn Road, which is the Archdiocese property, and that started last year at town meeting. If those who were here last year remember, we presented to you that it was a non-public discussion at that point, and we worked diligently throughout the year to work with the Archdiocese to make this happen. And whether you want to call it the 11th hour or not, we worked right up until the end to be able to present this to you today. You'll see a map here, but the Archdiocese property is adjacent to the cemetery where the football field is. Our cost to buy this land is $350,000, and it's appraised for $450,000. The Archdiocese made it very clear to us that they're only willing to sell this for municipal purposes. We currently use that land, and we have for years, and we want to move forward with being the owners of that property and hopefully for a police station. The galvanizing factors on this project is this is a calculated time of opportunity. In our lifetime, we've talked about this for over a decade in making sure that we do the right thing. And now is a calculated time of opportunity to move forward with this project. It's the most economical and reliable available utilities, water, sewer, and natural gas. They're in close proximity at the street. Those were some of the stumbling points that we've all talked about that were going to increase the cost of this project. The one that is not listed in there is the fact that where this land is located, it allows us to have a controlled intersection at Route 3 with preemption for emergency vehicles. It's there. It's already paid for. So that should be included in that as far as the utilities go. The Archdiocese will only sell for municipal purposes. This property is not intended to be on the tax rolls if the town does not buy it. That was highly considered by this committee, the fact that you have property at exit 20, and well, what if it could be on the tax rolls? This property is never intended to be on the tax rolls. So it really was a win-win in that factor. That's why it's on this particular list. We recommend that the unused piece stay as recreational land for now. There was some great discussion during our meetings about, well, it's currently a football field. That's really been the part of the foundation of our championship football team here at Winnisquam, is the fact that field was originally used for that, and that was important that it stay recognized as recreational land for now. It's centrally located, and in capital letters, it's the right price. So, without any further ado, for those of you that are not familiar with a particular piece of property, the cemetery itself is located down here at the bottom of the slide. There's a hedgerow of trees that are here. This red line outlines the property, the over 4.5 acres. You'll recognize at the top of the slide, if you've driven into the Tanger outlet, that's the back parking lot. The accessibility for this property is just simply amazing. The utilities, one of the overarching questions is where is the water line? What's it going to cost? And we've done enough research to know that we're on the more economical side of the water line. You'll see a slide here in a second. One of the things that we talked about at almost every meeting was investing in our critical infrastructure. And when I talked about the calculated time of opportunity, this picture on the left-hand side caught my eye every time I walked by the glass case on the second floor of Town Hall. That if you take a peek at this and you think of the work that went into building our Town Hall, it's a granite foundation, and the fact that they put that much work into it, they invested in our critical infrastructure. We're still in that building. Although these projects are expensive, and the amount of time that has been put into this for over a decade, we do feel that it's investing in our critical infrastructure. In buying this land, it allows us a good start for just this. So, we will talk about, I can actually call on Tim Pearson if we can talk about the financing of the land portion. Tim, if you want to, if you're ready to speak on that now. Mr. I probably should ask Mr. Meyer if that's okay, if Tim Pearson's to speak on that.
Yes, but do so nice and quickly.
I shall. Can you hear me? Okay. So there are different options. The way the article is written is for the selectmen to be able to negotiate bonds or notes to do the purchase. And that could mean anything from a short-term note, say a 2-year or 5-year note, to say a bond of 10 years or more. And they it gives them the option of taking the best option available at the time in terms of interest rate and whatever deal is available either through a local bank or through the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. If it's going to be a longer-term bond, more than likely it would be through the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank, which aggregates bonds from all different communities to get a better rate, better terms, and at very, very low cost. If it's a shorter-term note, it would more than likely be through a local bank. And if anyone follows rates, the rate differential right now between a 2-year Treasury note and a 10-year Treasury note is not very great. It's pretty flat at the moment. So the numbers that you see here in terms of financing are based off of a 5-year note. A note can also be paid off early and wrapped into another type of bond or financing instrument, so that if in a subsequent year 2 or 3 from now, there's a bond warrant article for a construction loan for a building, that if there's still money owed on something for either the land or the next warrant article, that can be wrapped into the overall financing. So the short-term note provides greater flexibility than going to a true bond. So in this case, the financing for the 5-year note is 16 cents per thousand. So what that equates to is on a $100,000 house, it would be $16. $200,000 house or property would be $32, and so on. If we were to pay cash for it, in other words, just buy it outright without any financing whatsoever, it would be 69 cents on the tax rate for 2019. And that's providing that our revenues and expenditures fall in line for the year, what we're planning, as well as our tenant valuation. So the pay in 1 year, that would actually be 2019, not 2020. And that's pretty much it.
Did you have anything else that you wish to add right now, Kevin?
At this time, I do not. Yes, thank you. After being highly encouraged by Selectman Constantino, the amount of, if we could have bottled the amount of energy that went into the last 18 months for searching for this land and determining that this was the right time and the right piece of land, I wish we could unleash that today. Our committee is unanimously in favor of this piece of property, and we also hope that you will be too.
Just so that there's no confusion, on buying it over the 5-year period would be $16 on a $100,000 home. I guess Tim did mention that. $32 on a $200,000 home. And the rate paying it out open over the first year would be at 69 cents, which would be $69 for a $100,000 home, $138 for a $200,000 home, and so forth. So those are the current options available to purchase the land. Is there any discussion on this warrant article? Yes, sir. Please come to the microphone.
Bob came from Lancaster Hill Road. That piece of land, I go by it every single day. It's a beautiful piece of land, it's flat, and for $350,000, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the best locations we can have, and to me, it's a no-brainer. We should get that piece of land.
Stanley Brown, Caleb Hill Road. Mr. Moderator, please refer refer me to which page of the report has this information in it. 20? So it was a big presentation. This should be the cover of this report.
And the moderator recognizes Pat Constantino, and then we'll go to the next mic.
In all fairness, the committee has had several public hearings. We've opened up all of our meetings and passed out information as much as possible to the public on an ongoing basis all year long to try to get the word out as much as we can in Facebook, everywhere possible, to try to let people be aware of what we're doing at all times.
Microphone 2.
Hi, microphone 2.
Whoa. All right. My name is Jason Wright, 570 West Main Street. I recently ran for selectman and lost, but thank you for those votes. I'm going to hit it again next year. It's not why I'm standing here. First is to address the cover, as Kevin mentioned. The ink on this was pretty wet coming into town meeting, and the publication for our town report goes back a little bit further, and this committee has worked tirelessly right up to the last minute. And it's not about the committee, it's not about us, it's not about this project, our town and our history and our $5 million plus budget. This is just one spoke of the wheel. So this is not a showboating committee. This is work behind the scenes and chooses to operate that way. But Pat said it best, it's a public committee. One of the factors that didn't come up in the presentation and I think is important for us to consider is we often go too small on things, and with this parcel being 4.5 acres and only needing a fraction of it for a PD, and as the warrant article states, some other purpose, we're right around the corner from fire district meeting, and you never know which year it's going to get hot, and you never know which year we might need a piece of land to park a couple fire trucks. So that was actually another of the many conversations we had about planning for our future and thinking in terms of flexibility and what if. We'd like to have a football field. We could have other offices there at some future point, but rather than under purchasing and being too small and living in the type of police department that we have at this point, which is undersized, having that extra acreage and flexibility is really a plus for us. So I hope that we all support this today.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else? Yes, I'll call on you and then over with you.
Hello, my name is Dick Olson. I live at 14 Ruby Lane in Tilton. I agree that we should buy this property, but I think we need to slow some of our spending in other areas. Between the dispatch, the 8th officer, the land acquiring, the prep work, and we have many other things we've just overspent. I think we need to take it into some balance and look at what we're spending and look at what we're getting, because we can't just afford everything. I think it's smart for us to not leave our kids with tons of debt and bond absolutely everything, which is kind of our attitude now. I have a son, and I want to leave him a town that's wealthy, and I don't want to leave him with a huge burden of debt. We know that if you bond everything, there's interest on those loans, and they do cost money. So if we're going to pay for this and vote for this, I think we should all vote to pay for it right away and with our money, because we're the ones making the decision. I don't want my son to pay for decisions that I'm making. And I think it's a really good property. I think it's in a great location, but I think we need to say no on some other things to make sure it's not affecting and moving people out of their homes. Thank you so much.
Microphone 1. That's it.
Hi, my name is Doug Richard. I'm from 34 Morrison Ave in Tilton, New Hampshire. I'm also a member of St. Gabriel's Parish, which is part of the group that you're buying the land from. And the bulletin for my church has mentioned this several times, and I wanted to read that to you folks so you hear kind of what's coming from us. Property management update. We have agreed on a price for the town of Tilton for the cemetery land. It is now up to voters. If they say yes, the sale should be finalized by June 30th. We have spent the last several months dealing with roofs, the rectory, the church steeple in Tilton, the rectory and convent building in Franklin, and we're patching the gym roof once again. There is still so much to do. The sanctuary roof in Tilton has had it. The carport is ready to collapse, and we must do everything about the musty smell in Tilton Church Hall and the Boone Center and finish repairs the second floor in Tilton Rectory. We try to prioritize the many needs of our aging buildings. Hopefully the proceeds from the sale of the cemetery will enable us to get ahead of some of these problems.
Microphone 2.
Scott Davis, Tilton, 5 Linden Ave. I support this because I think it's a good investment for the town. It's the right piece of land. But I don't support bonding it. I was going to ask, can we get a number for our unreserved fund balance, what we have in that?
Let's see, Mr. Pearson, do you have some answer about the,
As of our last financial audit, which was the end of 2017, the fund balance, unassigned fund balance was $487,000. We're currently completing our 2018 audit, but it's not complete yet. But I'm looking at a range of between 100 and 120,000 that will be added to that. So it'll be around 600,000 of unassigned fund balance if all holds through the end of the 2018 financial audit.
Scott, do you have additional questions?
Yes. Can we take money from the unreserved fund balance by the selectmen? They didn't take any of this last year to offset taxation. Can we take money out of the unreserved fund balance to offset some of the cost of this so that it's not 69 cents per thousand and pay for it in 1 year? I'd like an answer from the select board, what they think we can take out of this unreserved fund balance to offset the cost of this land.
Well, first let me just ask Mr. Pearson, because I think you probably have dealt with DRA.
Yes. Yes, I have. So a question like that, I would certainly defer to the Board of Selectmen, but the way that works mechanically is that we would pay for the purchase during the year, and then the Board of Selectmen would have the option at tax rate setting time in the fall to reduce the tax rate by a certain amount. And were I recommending to them, which I would do on an annual basis, what amount to use, I probably wouldn't go over, in my recommendations, but knowing what I know now, over $100,000, which would be roughly 20 cents offsetting.
And then another question. On page 68 in our town report is town-owned property. Is the select board considering and/or looking through the inventory that the town already owns a property to see if there's any property we can sell now that we're going to be acquiring another piece of property to offset the cost of this also?
Is there anyone here on the select board or who can answer that? I don't see anyone responding at this point. Yes, Jason?
I got that on that. One of the discussions we had in the building committee is to research and make sure we would be selling the PD, the present police department building property. Now the timing isn't right, but there was a article and a motion that passed a few town meetings ago to, if we build and when we build a new police department, to actually liquidate that Group 3 property where the PD sits, which would go back on the tax rolls and actually generate some tax income for us as well. So that's kind of a double income. But I know the timing isn't right with the direct purchase.
Mr. Moderator? Yeah, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to amend Article 3. I'd like to have it state that we're going to go ahead and just purchase without bonding. And I'd like clarification, one more thing, Mr. Moderator. If we bond the article, then we have to pay bond counsel, correct? There's cost in regards to like bond counsel and everything. That's going to be additional costs on top of what we're posting up here on the actual bond?
On a true bond, yes. If it's a note from the bank, no.
So at this time, I presented you, Mr. Moderator, with a copy of the article. I'd like to make an amendment as follows, that to see if the town will vote to approve the purchase of approximately 4.586 acres for the purpose of building a new Tilton police station and or other municipal purpose. Located off Sanborn Road, the acreage is the northerly portion of land as described in the boundary survey dated January 22nd, 2019, and is presently owned by the Roman Catholic Bishop of Manchester. A corporation sole tax at our 23 lot 5, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $350,000 for that purpose.
Basically, what the amendment that Scott is proposing is, when you look at the article, after the word purchase, it appears in the town report, to put in a period and then to remove the balance of that, which would be the essence of not bonding the purchase. Okay, Scott has moved this. Do we have a second? Do you have a second? Mike said that. Scott, do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that if I could.
Yeah, let's try to do that within your 2 minutes, please.
Yes, that being said, as Tim Pearson stated, if the select board was to offset this with at least $100,000 from the unreserved fund balance, what are the 50 cents a thousand? So the difference between the 16 to the 49 is only 33 cents. I mean, there's not a lot of difference here. We're paying for it in 1 year, and it's not being carried forward. I'm not a fan of bonding something and then rolling that bond into another bond. It seems like we just keep paying interest on top of interest, even though the interest rates are low. It's still every dollar counts. So I support this. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Please go to the microphone. First.
I'm just a little curious about the 300 Bob King from Lancaster Hill. I'm just a little curious about the bond at 16 cents over a 5-year period versus buying this thing cash outright. What would be saving in interest by buying it outright in 1 year?
I will ask Mr. Pearson, who's been working on this.
$6,500.
$6,500. It's a little bit of a savings, so I'm for just buying it and paying it in 1 year. And like Scott says, if we get the 100,000 in the other funds, that will bring it down even more. Thank you.
I've got someone down at the other end.
I just want to reiterate my point.
Please.
Name Richard Olson, 14 Ruby Lane. I think we need to make sure we don't, like Scott Davis said, we don't want to keep rolling our bonds into another bond, because it just keeps raising it up. We pay interest on that loan. So even $6,500 on a 5-year, that's still $6,500 we can use elsewhere. I think if we're going to vote for it, we're going to make the decision, let's us pay for it and not make everybody else pay for our decisions. Thank you.
That's that.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Still Kevin LaChapelle. I am in favor of Mr. Davis's amendment. I think that this is smart. I'm proud to be a resident of Tilton because of smart, calculated decisions like this. If we pay cash for this land, it puts us in a much better position to do further business of why we're buying this land. That is my personal opinion. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, I'd really like the public to be explained what happens in the case that this fails, the amendment fails, what happens to the original amendment. I need them to know what the repercussions in case that this amendment does fail.
If this particular amendment fails, then we are back to the original bond article, which would, as printed in the town report. I will tell you that if the amendment passes, then what you see up on the screen, which means it's to be purchased outright. If that passes, then the town would go ahead, and it would only require a majority vote, would not require 2/3. I would also tell you that if this is amended and becomes the main article, and that main article would fail, that would mean that Article 3 would be dead for this meeting. So that's basically it. Mr. Drew, Article, microphone 2.
Chuck Drew, Clark Road. The 6,500 per year, correct? On a 5-year note, so it's not 6,500, it's actually closer to 30,000. Okay, I just wanted to
Microphone 1.
Juliet Harvey, Belmont Drive, would like to make a question.
Move the question. Do we have a second? Seconded. The name, please.
Kevin Kane.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of closing debate, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Debate is closed. We're going to try to do this with a voice vote. This is on the amendment. As you see on the screen, to see if the town will vote to approve the purchase of approximately 4.586 acres for the purposes of building the new Tilton Police Station and/or other municipal purposes located off Sanborn Road. The acreage is the northerly portion of the land as described in the boundary survey dated January 22nd, 2019, is presently owned by the Roman Catholic Bishop of Manchester, a corporation sold tax map R23 Lot 5, and the raise appropriate the sum of $350,000 for that purchase. Now, so that you're clear, we are only voting right now on this amendment, which would then make, if you approve this, this becomes the main article. All those in favor of Article 3 as amended, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Whoa. Article 3 is now amended, and that is now the main article. Is there further discussion on Article 3?
Yeah, Robert Brownstone, Taylorville Road. I'm just curious, we're talking about an expenditure of $350,000 on the property, which is really going to be the small drop in the ocean. You're then talking about another $260,000 in architectural drawings and planning before the first bricks even laid on any structure. I'm curious how much money you envision spending on the completed police station. At what point, how much money is going to be required before the police station is ready for use? We're talking about 16 cents a pound dollar, but in reality, to put a new police station up is going to be a lot more than that. They don't have a final figure.
Jason, I guess, do you want to speak? We also have the architect here. And the question, I guess, we're going to have to, this is a fine line of whether or not this is directly speaking more about Article 4 than it is Article 3. But I will get a response on this, please.
Certainly. Jason Wright from Tilton. Part of Article 3 is to buy the land whether we use it for a PD or not. Article 4, while we're not discussing that, is we can't get the big number until we do the 267 number, because that will get us the full built-out plans. Then it would go to bid, and then we would have a shovel-ready number. But Part 2 of the Police Department Study Committee, should the selectmen retask it, Phase 1 was to get a piece of land. That's all that our committee was tasked with, was finding the land. Phase 2 would be to have the land, the engineering, and then get a shovel-ready number. But in creating that larger number, the committee will reconvene as to decide, is it going to be block construction? Is it going to be wood frame construction? Are we, we're going to build a a building for 30 years or 100 years? Or those are the questions. What size is this conference room too big? Why is this conference room there? Why is this office this size? Those are the things that are going to get hashed out in the next phase while the engineering is being done and the plans are being built and drafted, and then it can go out to bid, and then we can find out, okay, this is what we need for electrical infrastructure, and what would that cost? So it's, unfortunately, you have to spend some of the dollars to get to the bigger dollars, and that's the next phase of the commitment.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'd like to direct a question to Mr. Trousdale, if I may.
Certainly. Director, ask me the question.
Can you ask him, if, respectfully speaking, if we could protect the integrity of Article 3, is he comfortable with having deeper discussion when Article 4 is brought to the floor, just to protect the integrity of this discussion? If not, then certainly we can keep discussing it.
Mr. Trousdale, did you hear his comment?
I'm not sure I really understood it.
He would like to try to respond more to the cost of a building and some of those associated things in Article 4 and try to keep Article 3 as just simply the purchase of the land and nothing else.
Okay, again, that makes me a little nervous because we're spending $350,000 just to hear the discussion on Article 4. We could have voted on Article 3 before Article 4. Once again, you know, we're spending over $600,000 with no idea of the sort of end figure. And at the same time, once we bought the land, there's going to be a question of, oh, we've already got the land, we might as well go on to the next step. And I want everyone to be completely aware that this is kind of setting the ball rolling down the hill here, and it's going to turn into a multi-million-dollar project. We won't be arguing about $350,000 if you're arguing about $5 or $6 million to do by the time this is said and done.
Microphone 2.
Good morning, Heather Bishop Dumpka, School Street in Tilton. I am for the purchase of this land. I remember many town meetings ago standing here fighting against them trying to build the new police department up in Industrial Park Drive because it wasn't the right piece of land. I think even if we don't use this piece of land as the police department, we can find other great uses for this piece of land. It is currently being used so our people can enjoy it with the football, and also in the winter there is the ice skating rink, which I don't see a lot of people on, which we probably need to promote more in the winter time. So if we do buy this land and we don't use it for the police department, we could turn it into another beautiful park or something like that. That could be useful to the townspeople of Tilton. I think of all these families who come up here and they shop at the Tanger outlets, and they've been in the car all day. Maybe they'd like a beautiful park next to the Tanger outlets to go and play at so their kids can play. So even if we don't put a police department here, this is a really good price for that piece of land. And there's more than a few things that we could do with it.
Sean Scanlon next.
Yeah, I think we have to keep our eyes on the availability of land in Tilton for any type of municipal purposes, whether it be sports fields or parks or anything like that. There's nothing else around. They've reviewed 173 properties. Regardless of whether we do build a police station now or what, that's not the question. But having that land available, so maybe 20 years from now, there might be somebody that would like to go and use that property for such purpose. I urge everybody to purchase this land. It's a rare opportunity, and the Archdiocese is specifically would like to have this for municipal purposes. Thank you.
Microphone 1.
Thank you, Juliet Harvey Dunlap Drive. I'd like to call the question.
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded to close debate. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, let's move to the main question. The main question is now Article 3 as amended. What I had planned to do anyway was to call for a ballot vote, but given the majority of the people supporting the amendment, I will go ahead and go with a voice vote And if I have any questions, I will do a standing vote, and we'll handle it that way. Article 3 now, as amended, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the purchase of approximately 4.586 acres for the purpose of building a new Tilton police station and/or other municipal purposes located off Sanborn Road. The acreage is the northerly portion of land described in a boundary survey dated January 22nd, 2019, and is presently owned by the Roman Catholic Bishop of Manchester, a corporation sole. Tax map R23 Lot 5, and the rates to appropriate the sum of $350,000 for that purchase. All those in favor of Article 3, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Article 3 passes.
Hello, everyone. As we sit up here and try to track the conversation so we can memorialize all of your involvement, we would really, really love you to come up to the mics, say your name, because it's being recorded and it'll help us get it right. So we love the active participation. I want you to move your body a bit. Just come up to the mic. I want to know your name, Kevin Kate, right in that microphone, and everybody else. So I really appreciate your cooperation. I'm Helen Hanks.
For anyone here, by the way, who doesn't know Helen. By the way, I did want to just mention, and if you could stand up briefly, Mr. Tom Damon. Stand up, please. Tom is the other member of the study committee, and he was not here earlier. Did want to make sure that people know who you were. Going on to Article 4. I will go ahead and read it. Yes.
I'd like to protect my vote on Article 3.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved.
This is
by
not
Scott
Davis.
Davis.
Sorry about that. I did the same as you.
And seconded by Pat Constantino to protect the vote, which means actually to what?
I know. You're the moderator. You have to lead us.
No, it's actually to restrict reconsideration. That means that it could never be brought back at this meeting to reconsider that previous vote. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, so ruled, protected. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $267,000 for the purpose of developing an architectural and engineering design for the new police station, and to authorize the issuance of not more than $267,000 of bonds and notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue and to negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon. This article is not included in the operating budget.
Mr. Moderator, I move that Article 4 be brought to the floor for discussion, and also I have an amendment.
It is now been moved to the floor and seconded by Catherine Dawson.
Pat Constantino. And the move.
Catherine Dawson.
Okay, Sullivan Dawson, Constantino, you have an amendment?
Yes, I make a motion to see if the town will amend Article 4 to read $194,000 for pre-construction architectural and engineering done for the police station. This article, this gets the town biddable documents, and it,
I'll second that. I'll second the motion, John Scanlon.
Mr. Moderator,
I don't know where it's going.
I'm changing the figure from $267,000 to $194,000
So basically, all you're trying to do is to change the amount of money from $267,000 to $194,500.
And I would ask that the moderator give us permission for our engineer, Gary Goudreau, to speak on this.
Okay, so you are proposing to make that change, just on the numbers, 267,000 down to 194,500. And is there a second on that particular amendment?
Second. John
Seconded by Jane Alden. Okay, you now have time, and if you want to yield some of that time to someone else.
I would love to yield it to our engineering police study committee, Gary Goudreau. Thank you.
Now, Gary, you are not a resident, right? Then without objection, we will let Gary speak. No objection. Go right ahead.
Good morning. Sorry for the confusion on this warrant article. The $267,000 that we had estimated for the town for this warrant article is for complete architectural and engineering services. Those services can typically be broken down into two phases. One would be the pre-construction phase, which gets you the construction documents, which includes drawings and specifications, up to the point that you can bid them to general contractors or construction managers. The balance is in the construction phase. We perform construction administration services, myself and our engineers, for approximately 25% of that fee. So the reason that this amendment has been proposed and the number is reduced is because we would be providing the architectural and engineering services only to get you to the point of biddable documents. If in 2020 you have a warrant article that is put forth to construct the police station, then the balance of those fees would be included in that warrant article. The fees that we're talking about here are not just architectural, they're architectural and engineering. Typically, basic services include the architect's fees, structural engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection. In this particular case, we have also included what contractually is normally considered additional services, but we need them to complete this process, and those would be geotechnical engineering services as well as civil engineering services. So within that $194,500 item, we have a full complement of engineering fees to get us not just the initial engineering fees, but also the drawings and the specifications to produce a biddable set of documents.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Yes, sir. Microphone 2.
Good morning, Kevin Kate. I just have a question regarding the civil engineering, the geotechnical services that I assume are being removed from this warrant article. Is that correct?
At this point, the only change is the dollar amount.
My question goes to the services that the engineer was speaking about, getting us buildable plans. But I believe at the end of his comments, he noted that the civil engineering and the geotechnical services would not be included in that $194,000 number. Is that correct?
No, I'm sorry if I misled you. What I was talking about was the difference between basic services and additional services. In this $194,500 number, we have both of those. We have geotechnical engineering and civil engineering up to the point of biddable documents. We will still need some of those engineering services in the construction phase, but again, 75% thereabouts of their services will be spent getting us to the biddable document phase.
My concern was that we could spend this $194,000 and then not know whether we could actually build that building on that piece of property or not.
That would be up to the voters when that
No, engineering-wise.
Engineering-wise, we would know.
Sure, okay, thank you.
The geotechnical engineering services will tell us, to the extent that we can, understand what's underground. And that's important information for us. We would have a day's worth of drilling and a geotechnical engineering report done. And essentially what that does for us is it gives us a snapshot of, in this particular case, 5 or 6 borings. The land's wide open, so we can probably get 6 borings in a day. We could understand what the topography is, we can understand what the soil composition is, whether we have a water table issue, whether we have ledge underground. All of that information would be very important, not only to us to understand what we might run into from a cost standpoint developing the site, but also from my structural engineering standpoint, my consulting structural engineer would need to know what the soil bearing pressure is in order to design their foundations. So that's pretty important information to have.
Next speaker is Selectman Dawson.
So over the past few weeks, I've heard construction blueprints for drawings, and now I'm hearing biddable drawings. This 194, 500,000 will get us drawings we can get bids on, but will we maybe construction drawings that we can actually build the building with?
Yes, the construction documents are, in our language, biddable documents.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
They're both drawings and specifications. It's a two-stage process that we put together.
Microphone 2.
I'm Marion Abbott. I live on Main Street, and looking at some of the shortcomings of the current police station, I noticed that it appears that no one has consulted with the police department while drawing the architectural plans for that one. Will the police department be consulted with before coming up with an architectural plan?
I'm going to call on Kevin.
Okay, ma'am, that's a great question, and I'd like to recognize the fact that this current committee that's been in progress, working for 18 months, has been joined at the hips with the police department, talking about architectural and engineering design. The other thing that we should all know is that back in 2006, when the initial committee was brought forth, the police department was engaged with that. And actually one of the chairs of that, one of those committees was Captain Wellington from the Tilton Police Department. So really to bring this project to you today, we need to recognize the fact that the police department has been actively engaged in this the entire time. Although you have not seen a uniform at the microphone today, if you look behind you, all those gentlemen that are in uniform, we've worked with them to get to this point. Does that answer your question?
At this point, the only discussion, any additional discussion on the amendment should be just the substitution of the amount to $194,500 from the $267,000. Then, if that is passed, then we would go ahead and have additional discussions, if anything, on what would then be the main article, which would be that total amount. Right now, it's just a question of the substitution of the amounts. Is there any other questions on substituting those amounts?
Mr. Moderator, Kevin LaChapelle still. I don't have a question, but I'd like to make a statement for the fact that I'm in favor of this, just due to the fact that I think it irons out and it clarifies and it makes it less cloudy on moving the project forward. So if we do enter the construction phase, it allows us to put the documents out to bid, and it protects us deeper than the $267,000.
Seeing no other questions, I'm going to go ahead. I'm sorry. Mr. Olson.
Richard Olson, 14 Ruby Lane. I just want to clarify so it's not cloudy. How are we paying for this? Are we bonding this or are we paying this outright?
At this particular vote right now is only to change the 267 to 194.5. Has nothing to do with the main motion yet. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and read this as amended. and then we will go ahead and vote on the amendment. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $194,500 for the purpose of developing an architectural and engineering design for the Tilton Police Station and to authorize the issuance of not more than $194,500 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue and to negotiate such bonds and notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon. This article is not included in the operating budget. All those in favor of this motion as amended, or to amend the main motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Passed unanimously to change the amount of money. Now we are on Article 4 as amended. Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I feel like the temperature may have gone up in the room since the last time I presented Article 3, but this, again, I'm not going to start with the same way we did previously, but we're very passionate about this, and I spoke to this in between, that this is calculated. We really feel that, especially now that Article 3 has passed, that it really, we're on a good trajectory to build this building, okay? And as everyone up here at the head table knows, I could go on for hours about this, but we're going to jump into the meat and potatoes of it. The major concerns for safety within the current facility, and I'm just going to briefly go over this, and then Chief Cormier and others from the police department, if they will be allowed as non-residents to speak. There's no air handling system in the current building. Major concern for hazmat exposure. Crimes and the things that our officers are being exposed to is completely different than they were in 2006, and certainly more different than they were back in the early 90s when we built that current police facility. The booking room and the offices are in the same space. I'll let them speak to that. That's probably one of the most alarming safety hazards in my mind, and a huge liability for us. No separate juvenile holding area. No separate holding area for males and females. The bathroom is currently used as a separate holding cell. I'm not going to elaborate on that. The folks from the police department do that. The bathroom for prisoners, one of the bathrooms for prisoners is in the office area. Interview rooms have no privacy. We've outgrown the office space. I think one of the things that keeps sticking in my mind, I remember from the town meeting that was presented on the space when we first asked for the police station. It was stated that they were out of room, and the body at the town meeting at that time recognized that things needed to be streamlined, use lean process, whatever you use to organize things. And everything that we asked them to do to make that building more efficient, they've done. Not ADA compliant, and the lower level has lack of fire exits, and that's actually where our emergency operations center is, and one. You can see that I like these slides because it does show the efficiencies that they do have, but the fact that the building is wide open in the office areas, luckily they do have cameras so they can keep an eye on it. This main server room is actually in the basement of the police station where they have moisture problems. If you work in an office area that has a main server, in the corporate world, this would be an absolute no-no. And this is really the space, the only space that they have for that. The holding cell is actually was built after the police station was built, many years after the police station was built as a detainment area. And this door goes out to the Sally Port and garage area. Very tight quarters. This is a vehicle that was taken in for search purposes. It's a 2-bay, no floor drains. You can see where the concrete is starting to be etched away. The space is tight. When we talk about the total portion of the project, I'm actually going to defer this slide. I'd like to draw your attention away from this particular slide, just because of all the discussions that we've had this morning. This is a collective 20-year bond, and it would not be fair to speak to this slide because it has been broken up this morning. Why now? Again, investing in our critical infrastructure. We've done some really amazing things here in Tilton, and building this police station, it will really thrust us into the future. And I respect what Mr. Olson had said about, I'd like to pay for what my kids will have in the future. But the fact that if we build a new police station on this land and build it with integrity, this is, if it's like Town Hall, can you imagine the generations ahead of us in our own families and in our community that will be able to benefit from that. Unlike being 10 years into a police station building, the one that we're in now, and talking about replacing it. Thank you, 15 seconds. I've never talked for 15 seconds. The need for a new police station facility was acknowledged over a decade ago. And we cleaned up all the previous work that we've done, and underlined, scored, underlined, bold, this is a time of calculated opportunity. And the previous decision that we made on Article 3, again, I think was a very smart decision. And time's up. So 18 months worth of work said in 5 minutes. I'd like to have the folks from the police station and others from our committee be recognized to speak on some of the items that I've already spoken to.
I believe at this point, though, the warrant article itself is for the engineering study. Not so much the idea of trying to sell the fact that we need a new police station at this point. So any additional comments, I'm going to try to keep them because I believe it was said that after the study was done, we'd have to come back another year and vote whether to actually build anything. And there's a lot of time for a lot of hearings. So rather than trying to drag this out too long, I'd like to try to keep it to the actual motion. Scott.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, Scott Davis. I guess I was confused for a second there. My question would be, if we move forward and build out and develop plans or blueprints or whatever you want to call them, plans so that they can be put out to bid. We've done this many times. How long or how long are those plans good for on this piece of land? Because we've already purchased the land. So if we had, say we went forward and had plans designed, even though we didn't pass it, how many years are those plans going to be good for? Because that's the way I look at it as a taxpayer.
I'm going to ask the architect to speak to that.
The codes that we design by, my name is Gary Goodrow from Chester, New Hampshire. Our office is in Concord. We design to building codes, fire codes, and the like. We also design to ADA requirements. Most of those codes, with the exception of the ADA, which is civil rights legislation, the codes vary every 3 years. They get a new edition that comes out. To the extent that those codes don't change based on when we designed the building to start with, then the building would still be code compliant. Then the only thing that I would worry about is making sure that the site characteristics haven't changed, where you're not trying to put the building on a different site. Because then you have to at least take another look at geotechnical engineering and the foundation done. But all things being equal, if we decided to put it on that site, you decided 4 years from now that was the time to build it, as long as we look at the codes again and make sure that those things haven't changed, the document should still be valid.
Are we, Mr. Moderator, are we on the first year of the 3-year change or the last year of the 3-year change?
It varies. The fire codes don't follow the same 3-year period as the building codes do. We have to go by the most restrictive of either one of them.
Mr. Olson.
Again, Dick Olson, 14 Ruby Lane. How are we paying for this? Are we bonding this again? I know we kind of missed it in the slides. It really wasn't addressed because of everything changed up. But I really want to know what it's going to cost us and how we're paying for this. And I don't want to pass it on to my son. Thank you.
I believe it is very clear here. It says as a bond issue. In order for this to pass today, it would require a 2/3 secret ballot vote. Yes, Kevin.
Kevin Marshall. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to recognize Tim Pearson, if he would, and talk about the rate of finance, if he could, on the 194 buy.
Okay, I will ask him to do that after we go to microphone 2.
Lucinda Hope, Lancaster Hill Road. On one of the earlier slides, I think at the very bottom of the list, it says $6,500 for geotechnical services. Is that correct? Would that be done first, and if we discover it can't be, and nothing can, any consequence can be built there, will the whole thing just stop and we've only spent $6,500?
Yes, Gary, you want to respond to that?
Very good, I guess that would be completely up to the committee and the Board of Selectmen. But what we anticipate happening is if some things occur that are not typical, say we have a little bit of ledge in one corner of the building, we would identify the cost to remove that ledge rather than stop the whole project and make that the committee and the Board of Selectmen would make that value judgment. I don't anticipate, based on the sort of the information that we already have about that site, that we're going to run into anything that would stop us. It's just a question of whether or not we need to augment a certain portion of the site to either, let's say we ran into some peat or some other unsuitable material, say it was filled in 50 years ago and we didn't know about it in one section. We have the option of either shifting the building away from that bad soil or removing the soil and replacing it with engineered fill. So I don't anticipate something that would kill the whole project. It's just a matter of what we might have to do to remediate something that's less than desirable to build on.
Okay. You want to follow on with a question? Please go to the microphone. I know it's not easy for you, but please do so. And then we'll go to Tim about the finances.
I'm sorry, but I didn't hear an answer to my question. The question was specifically if the geotechnical investigation shows that that is an inappropriate site because of what we can't see, what we don't know, will it stop then? Another way to phrase that is, will that geotechnical survey with all your boring holes and so forth be done first?
Yes, the survey would be done first. As speaking to whether or not that would kill the project, that would have to be up to the board.
Thank you. I believe the question came up with 194,500. If you could give us some data on how that would affect tax rate and whatever.
Certainly. So the using the same short-term note.
Tim Pearson.
Tim Pearson, Gale Hill Road, Tilton, Finance Director. So using the $194,500 in a 5-year note, the annual payment would be $42,470 or 9 cents per thousand. So on a $100,000 house, it would be $9. A $200,000 property, it would be $18, and so on. Over the course of the 5 years, it would generate a total interest of $17,850.
Are there any other questions? As soon as the gentleman goes ready. Yes, sir.
Douglas Richard, Morrison Ave, Tilton. So we're going to spend some money. We're going to be able to go out to bid after all this is done. And we're looking to have something that's going to last for generations, we hope. What I haven't heard or seen is any thought to renewable energies, solar, geothermal, things that are going to benefit this community and keep our costs low in the future if we invest now. So somebody can talk to that.
I believe right now, however, this is just for doing the preliminary work and the plans. I think once we get toward the actual building of construction, we can get to those other areas. But Gary, do you want to add anything else to that, please?
I think once this, there's a pass and we were to start this process, those kinds of questions and deliberations would happen at the very beginning. Because we would want to know what the town wants to do in that regard. We would incorporate that into the design, whether it's just solar, whether you want geothermal, again, the geotechnical engineering would inform us as to whether that's where the bedrock might be. So I think those decisions need to be made up front because that will tell us the scope of our services and what the project cost would ultimately be. We probably want to do some life cycle analysis of costs in order to make sure that we get the value of the money invested in, say, geothermal, that sort of thing. But to answer your question, that information, those desires, that scope limit, all has to be established. We haven't talked about it yet because we haven't started the project.
Okay, the moderator will call on Joe Jessamine.
My name is Joseph Jessman, 99 Silver Lake Road. Over the years, we've had this very same discussion about plans and we're going to build a police station. We spent in excess of $300,000 in real money to get these plans and studies, and I personally believe we need a new facility. But if we're not going to build a police station in short order, there's no sense in spending this money right now. If we're not going to, Mr. Davis asked a question, and apparently, depending on when the codes change, these plans might only be good for a year or two, and then they have to be gone all over again. And I'm leery of spending $194,000 and still having nothing to show for it.
Microphone 2.
Jason Wright, 570 West Main. I am in favor of spending it now, and most of you that know me know I'm tight with the buck. This is an interesting opportunity. The time is right, and that the reduced number 194 on a 5-year note, not a bond, a note. This is the type of expense that we got to get in, run like heck, and if we can get a building up affordably, we have very little time to, cobble everybody's ideas together, and any grant money that might come as a result. And this is a note that could be rolled into the final construction and payment over the long term, but we've got to get in, get some drilling done, get some information, and make a good informed decision. And this is the way to do it. And we can't dawdle. The momentum's in the right direction. This is something that could be, we can get on the books now with a 5-year note and then just roll it into the rest of our, which is a commonplace thing to do with other construction. So I'm in favor of this as it's written, as it's going now, and we can adjust as we make a decision to build.
Gentlemen at back, if you want to speak, please come into a microphone, and I'm assuming you're a Tilton resident?
Yes, sir. Could it pass it back, or? Thank you.
Zach McCroy, 321 Calesville Road. So I am in full support of this also. However, we're spending a lot of money up front, and I think we need to look at financing because even if we spend money for the boreholes, I don't know why the piece of property wouldn't be viable, but we still don't know if it will be viable until that point. And we're spending a lot of money up front, and from a financing, from a working capital perspective, is something that we need to think of because in the rare event that piece of property is not viable, we just dumped $350,000 into it from a reserve fund, and then we're spending another almost $200,000 for a survey. But if we have to go to another piece of property or find somewhere to put another police station, we're still going to have to scratch out more money. So I think we should move forward with this as is, but we do need to finance some of this.
Microphone 2, Heather.
Heather Bishop Dumka, Tilton, New Hampshire. I'm looking at the big picture instead of just this one article. I'm looking at the fact that the fire department is going to be asking us to build them a brand new building because we've kind of been pushed because the Central Street station is just in, I didn't think it was possible, but in worse shape than the police department building is. So my worry is that we have two big, huge building projects that we might need to do in the next 2 years. So my thought is, yes, the police department does need a new station, but at least you can get into the police department. You can't get into the fire station if you're handicapped. We might want to table this for a year or two because we've got to look at the big picture right now. And I don't know, I cannot afford my tax rate going up a huge amount because we need 2 huge buildings. And to put them together is a horrible idea. I've heard a lot of people saying, well, we should have a mutual, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket because we live, unfortunately, in a terrorist society. So if someone wants to take out all of our important resources and we have them all in one building, all they need to do is take out one building. They take out our fire, our EMS, and our police. So we do not need a combined building. I think this should wait for a year or two just to look at the big picture and see what our tax rates are going to do.
I am taking people who haven't spoken yet, please take it.
Jim Lyle. I support going ahead with the studies funded through the note. For us, we have the opportunity next year, year after that, to actually go ahead with the building itself. But it'd be foolish for us to now have land that we've been leasing, using for recreational purposes. Now we bought it, and we'll continue using it for recreational purposes, without then saying, here's an opportunity for us to look at whether this property can be used effectively for police station or other municipal use. Let's go ahead and spend a few dollars. We've been in the business of trying to have the entire enchilada bought and paid for when we went ahead with the Business Park Drive property. And then once we started to get into the nuts and bolts, realized wasn't the best maneuver. All we're looking for is some dollars to get to know whether we can build and what the construction might cost. That's all we're looking for with this bond.
Again, Dick Olson, 14 Ruby Lane. I just think between the 8th officer, the land we just bought, especially Business Park Drive, the money we spent there and essentially lost for all the planning. I think we really need to take a second, wait a little while, and then if we're going to make this decision, we should pay for it now and not pass it on to our kids or new people that move into the town. We're just going to bond this money and bond this money again. Thank you.
Microphone 1.
Kathy Mitchell, I move the question.
Question has been moved. Do we have a second? Seconded by Cindy Reinhardt. All those in favor of closing debate say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Debate is closed. Now, the main motion, and by the way, this is a bond article. It will have to remain open after I finish reading for a period of 1 hour. And we will again, folks, I'm going to tell you this now before I read it, file up this way, go past the supervisors of the checklist. They will punch your voter card by ballot number 1 at the top. They will give you a greenish yellow ballot. Please mark it yes or no. It will require 2/3 of those present and voting. The article is Article 4. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $194,500 for the purpose of developing an architectural and engineering design for a new Tilton police station and authorize the issuance of not more than $194,500 of bonds or notes in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue and to negotiate such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon. This article is not included in the operating budget. So, the time right now is, I will use my phone, 9:44. I will close the polls at 10:45. So the polls are now open. I do plan on going on with Article 5 in probably 15 minutes. Linda Burns, have them hand you the ballot, you put it in the box.
Boys are strong on people.
I haven't seen 4 o'clock in a while. The 3-year-old was restless and she was in bed with us, so she kept taking me at 4 o'clock. I finally had to
Hey, Joe.
If you have not already done so, we appreciate you heading over and casting your ballot. In approximately 5 minutes, I'm going to have the folks reserve their seats.
I was just up there this morning. I live on Bear Road, right out behind Walmart.
Oh, okay.
Before the trailer park is off, there's like cul-de-sac. I didn't watch it. It said you had some new developments, but I didn't see what it was. An 11-year-old did outdoor doors and just keep hanging. Go out these doors. Go that way too. This one's short. Yeah. Just go through that door, through the next door, and keep hanging right. Yeah, climb over.
Right?
Yeah, keep hanging right. Well, that way. If you're going that way, go that way. That ring here. That little ring thing got up there, no one's carrying it. Nobody really takes care of it. Once it snows, no one shows them off, then it's ruined. Here's the guy shovel off the toast. The problem is liability, man. Nobody wants to let anybody on top. We spent our whole lives up there driving this long perfect place for people to get in track.
I would really appreciate it, folks, if you start heading to your
Well, she's probably figured out, I guess, what she was thinking. I got
Okay, folks, the next article is Article 5.
And that gavel, get it back. How was the trip? I'm going with you next time to package, okay? Yeah. Really?
The time being 10:02, the polls will remain open for another 44 minutes.
Our granddaughter did.
We are going to move on without objection to Article 5. Article 5 is to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be added to the Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund. Previously established, this appropriation is not included in the operating budget. And I'm going to call on Peter Fogg.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town adopt Article 5 as proposed.
And it is now seconded by
John.
Richard Olson and John Scanlon. Is there any discussion on this article?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, Mr. Fogg.
the Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund is one of the funds that the Public Works sets aside. This account is to purchase heavy equipment. We're looking to add $15,000 this year. The fund currently has a balance of $35,851, so it would bring the total to $50,851. In conversations with the DPW director, currently the rolling stock is in good condition, and we're not looking to purchase new equipment for a couple of years. Recent purchases have included, I believe it's a Kawasaki loader, a Yanmar excavator, a trailer to move the excavator, and a Ford F-550 one-ton dump truck plow wing combination.
Microphone 2.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
Question, what would we be going to spend money on in the future?
Coming up might be the oldest big six-wheeler is the 99 International, would probably be coming up next. The 90 International we replaced with the F-550. I don't think we can keep going small trucks. I think we need a couple of the big ones for some of the outlying roads.
And what would that cost be?
That truck's probably going to be over 100 grand, probably 150,000 fully output.
Any other questions? Seeing no questions, I will read the article again to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,000 to be added to the Highway Equipment Capital Reserve Fund previously established. This appropriation is not included in the operating budget. All those in favor of the article, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 5 passes. And I so declare. Article 6. To see, yes. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $94,000 to be added to the town roads, bridges, and sidewalks capital reserve fund. I'm going to call on Joe Jessup.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town adopt Article 6 as proposed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Pat Constantino. properly moved and seconded. Do we have anyone that would like to speak to that? Mr. Jessup.
Currently, the capital reserve fund has $134,945. By putting an extra $94,000 in it, that puts the balance at $228,000, almost $229. This year, we have before us improvements to the Main Street sidewalk in 3 separate sections between School Street and Tryon Lane, between Tryon Lane and Rescue Road, and between Rescue Road and the parking lot entrance down there to Virginia Bay. The north side only one side. We are also looking to do a Cedar Street, Pine Street, Highland Avenue, and Linden Avenue project, reclaiming all of those roads and allowing utilities to do upgrades, new asphalt, and add drainage. If the total, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but if we put the 94,000 in, we can do all of those projects and still have a balance in the capital reserve.
Are there any questions? Comments? Microphone 2.
Chairman Ryder, do we have an inventory of roads, bridges, sidewalks that we know when maybe in another 3, 5, 10 years, 20 years, we might need to be rushing? Is that printed anywhere that we can access?
Sir, yes, we do. We have a 10-year plan for the roads and sidewalks here in Tilton. I'm sure that if you get Ms. Forrester here at Town Hall, she'd be glad to let you see what's on that list right now. I don't know if that is anywhere just out there floating around. Does it change sometimes? We might have a big sinkhole over on this sidewalk that needs repair, and we have a priority.
Well, I guess my question is, if I may, we know that we're putting money into these reserve funds. We know that we've authorized the select board to allocate the funds as appropriate. But there should be enough transparency that this is one of the many links on the town website that could be referenced. Even if it is updated every year or every other year, we don't have a clear idea as what we're seriously going to have to be addressing over the next decade.
I'm sure that we can take that recommendation and see if the town put some information up for you. Yes, it can be done. Any other questions? Again, microphone 2.
It is stated, trying to find some of the information sometimes becomes difficult for the town taxpayers as we are. Is there a plan in the future for like maybe linking up to some other type of social media where maybe the majority of people nowadays find information? Maybe it's more of a statement or a question. Something to think about. I guess I don't really need an answer right now. I just think the transparency would be a little bit more defined.
If you're making that as a recommendation, suggestion, I'm sure that can be done.
That's what it is.
Any other questions? Yes.
Eric Pyra, Cedar Street. I know last night at the selectmen's meeting it was on the agenda to open the bids, I believe, for the construction projects. With those opening bids and this amount and the amount that would be in the capital reserve, is that going to be enough to fund those projects?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'm going to repeat Article 6. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $94,000 to be added to the town's roads, bridges, sidewalks, capital reserve fund. All those in favor of Article 6, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Article 6 passes. Article 7. to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be added to the reevaluation capital reserve fund established in 2002. This appropriation is not included in the operating budget. Catherine Dawson has moved the article to the floor for discussion and seconded by...
Mr. Moderator, I second the motion.
Seconded by Peter Bog. Catherine?
I think we all know what this is for. This is for evaluation. Last year we added 20,000 to that reserve fund. This year we're aiming for it to 5,000. Even though we really don't need it for this year, the Board of Selectmen put it in, so next year we can add less, so we don't get to that 20,000 mark. At least that's our hope. The reval will cost us $71,004. The current balance is $94,153. But down to 5,000, we'll keep that reserve fund going. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? Seeing none, let me repeat the article. Article 7, see if the town will vote, raise, and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to be added to the reevaluation capital reserve fund established in 2002. This appropriation is not included in the operating budget. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Article 7 passes. Article 8. We don't want to go too quick here.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town adopt Article 8 as proposed.
That is Article 8, to see if the town will vote to accept the conveyance of Northfield's one-half ownership of the island park to the town of Tilton. This article shall take effect only if the town of Northfield votes to convey the ownership. And we do need a second.
Mr. Moderator, I would second that motion.
Okay, let me just tell you that we have been informed the town of Northfield did approve giving their half ownership of the island to Tilton. They have already done that this morning. So the next step, folks, is that you need to now accept that. Yes, just one moment, please. Yeah, I guess on this one, the Article 8 was moved by John Scanlon and seconded by Joe Jessamine. That is, I'm repeating that for the purposes of the recording. John, would you like to speak?
Yes, John Scanlon, Tilton, New Hampshire. Okay, as you all remember, last year, Article 15 passed to see if the town is interested in owning 100% of the island park. And that had to go before the Northfield voters this year. And as you heard, that passed. They would like to pass it over to us. We did some cost and some research, if that can be done, and sent out information to all the notices to all the heirs. And we can do that. So this is up to the voters this year. I don't know if anybody else wants to comment.
Microphone 2.
Jason Wright, 570 West Main Street. And with regard to prior town meeting, it was very clear that the voting body, at least to my recollection, did not authorize the expenditure or appropriation of any funds for legal fees or things of that nature. So what was expended in terms of cost to do this research? Was it done with legal counsel, and did it cost something against the wishes of the taxpayers, who I believe said we were not looking to spend any money until we knew where we were heading with us? So did we incur legal fees, unauthorized or authorized, or where we're at with that?
We did do a title search, and I think you'd have to go back and look at the actual discussion that went on in the meeting that was what was requested, that we did do a title search. and that we did find out if Northfield would pass it.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
King Lancaster Hill Road. Looks like we're probably going to pass this article. The question I have is, several years back, the town of Tilton was putting money aside to fix this park, okay? Do we know how much money we have in that fund now?
Mr. Byron?
Yes.
Yes, the amount in the Tilton Northfield Island Capital Park Capital Reserve Fund is $61,275.55, and we're also, we can look at some grants also with that presently.
So if we own this park outright, we don't have to deal with Northfield as far as passing whether or not we need to make improvements.
Exactly, and that's one of the key things.
I think we should make improvements before it gets washed away.
Microphone two.
Pat Clark, 55 Taylor Hill Road. I understand that there are heirs for the people that gave us that property to Tilton Northfield. And one of the hurdles we have is to get their permission to sign off on it so that Tilton can own it by themselves. And I talked to people about that already. Can you give us an update on where that's at and how likely it is they're going to sign off on it?
Yes, John Scanlon. Yes, we have done that research, and we have notified the heirs, and we can do it legally. We went through that. We spent the last year working on it. I have a correction.
Pat, would you like to complete that?
Both towns, Northfield and Tilton, and with legal research, this was the way we were told to do it, and it's the title work, the release of deeds, and all of what we've done is all legally done the correct way.
Scott.
Mr. Monterey, Scott Davis. I just have a concern on the summer series that's well attended. How is that going to affect that? Because Northfield and Tilton, I believe, share in the cost of that, correct?
Actually, no. I can respond to that. I've had personal dealings with the Hartwell family. They actually are the ones that raise the funds themselves. If any funds come out of Northfield, it's because anyone living in Northfield or the select board or whomever it is has wished to donate. Each of their concerts carry around $1,000 cost for them to put on. And when you see a list of the sponsors, they are the ones who actually put the money up.
So this affects that in no form or fashion?
Excuse me? Pat?
Each town contributes $2,000 in the past history. That goes to contributing to a band, not to any maintenance or upkeep to the island whatsoever. So Allison and the Hartwell family get donations for the bands to continue with the concert series. That will not change at all. Whether or not Northfield continues to contribute to a band concert series is up to Northfield, the budget committee, as it is up to our budget committee as well, to continue the $2,000 that we contribute every year.
But I am correct in stating that Northfield and Tilton both donate money towards those summer series, because it's in our town report.
We donate to those, but we don't share the cost of the concert series. And that there's a difference there. We don't share the cost. Now, there are many sponsors to the Rotary sponsors, the Franklin Stadium sponsors the band, the Mitchell sponsor a band, the Tilton Northfield, Town of Tilton and Northfield sponsor a band. There are many different, there's 8 concert series, and each night a different entity sponsors the band.
Mr. Moderator, the concern that I have, as with with Northfield having no ownership, then they'll feel they have no reason to donate to the summer series, which currently they're donating $2,000 a year just as Tilton's been donating.
Your point is well taken.
Okay,
And at this point, it would be up to their budget committee to make their own decision whether they wish to contribute something in the future. I would hope that they would, because it's enjoyed by so many people from surrounding towns. Mr. Damon, microphone one.
Don Damon, Tilton Road. I'd like to ask the selectman through you, if I may, Mr. Moderator. What is the impediment to any private entity, groups, or fraternal organizations sponsoring the island concerts or structural improvements to the island? Why do we, just like to inform the body, and there's nothing, from what I understand, there's nothing prohibiting private individuals from donating their time or money to improve the island. We don't have to take everything we do in this town out of taxpayers' money. Let the leadership come forward and let's raise a couple of bucks, put in some flowers or improve the structural part of the island. We don't have to use taxpayers' money. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
I will let you know, Mr. Damon, that people like Selectman Scanlon in the past have donated his time and materials and putting a new roof on the gazebo out there. So these kinds of things have been happening, but thank you very much. Microphone 2.
Kathy Mitchell, I move the question.
It's, the question has been called to close debate. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Benny, Pat Constantino, and Helen Hanks. All those in favor of closing debate, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Debate is closed. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to accept the conveyance of Northfield's one-half ownership of the island park to the town of Tilton. This article should take effect only if the town of Northfield votes to convey the ownership. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Vote passes, so I declare. Article 9. By the way, if anyone has not yet voted on Article 4, the ballot box is still open. You still have time. Article 9. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate. We do have an amendment. Just one moment, please. Just a moment, please. I don't have it. Yeah, I'm going to read the original article, and then Pat Constantino has an amendment, then we'll deal with the amendment. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the budget committee's recommended amount of $5,648,531 for the general municipal operations. The recommended amounts do not include the special or individual warrant articles addressed separately. And today is being moved by Jane Alden. Microphone. Moved by Jane Alden and seconded by Christine Dubitsky. I hope I pronounced that right. Jane, would you like to speak to this, please?
Yes. Our budget committee, unlike a lot of budget committees, meets year-round. And our meetings are concentrated on looking at the town's progress on the 2018 budget this year. And in the fall, we focus on the 2019 budget and also look at the outside agencies. This year, the results of the increases and decreases to the operating budget was 0.1%, which is about as close as you can get, I think, to a level funded budget. Merit increases were budgeted at 2.5%, and there was individual increases. Now, one of the things we didn't take into consideration was the town clerk tax collector position. And the last few years, we've left that level funded so that it could be brought to the town meeting so that we make the decision. This year, I believe the request was for 3% of her annual total, which will come up to $62,506. The selectmen recommended $62,200.
Mr. Moderator, point of order. What does that have to do with the...
At this point, we are only talking about the main motion, which is the one printed in the manual. Not about any additions, changes, or deletions, so it's inappropriate to be talking about that item right now.
All right.
Pat, anyone else want to talk about the main motion, and then we can get to an amendment? No one, okay, then I'm going to call on Pat for her amendment.
Mr. Moderator, I make a motion to see if the town will vote to increase the operating budget by $5,636 for additional hours for the land use technician. $5,117 will go into the land use department budget for 8 additional hours per week, beginning April 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. The remaining $519 will go into the administrative line to cover the associated costs of Social Security, Medicare, and merit.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Catherine Dawson. If you would like to speak to that, Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. We have a town planner. Our town planner spends most of his time in administrative. We have a land use technician that currently works 16 hours and does a phenomenal job. We purchased last year a system that allows for a lot of the details and digitizing a lot of our programs and code enforcement. It has taken leaps and bounds in our land use department. Our land use technician has taken hold of that, and it's worked just fine. Recently, we've gotten a couple of presentations sort of towards the end, so we really didn't get a grasp on what it was, and therefore why we're coming a little bit late to the table here. Our town planner would love to spend a little bit more time in economic development with our town administrator who focuses on economic development. It's a vision in our town. We'd like to spend a little bit more time formalizing the capital improvement plan, working with the town administrator on local, state, and federal government grant opportunities to make improvements in our community. Examples of funding for Island Park restoration, planning New Hampshire charrette, CBD feasibility studies, and transportation grants. Identify and propose economic revitalization zones to encourage business expansion and grow jobs. Promote administrative community revitalization tax incentive programs, which we just instituted a month or two ago. So this 8 additional hours, she would be specifically take on more of the administrative aspects of the planning board business while continuing to improve the department's organization of digital and paper records. So basically what we would like to do is utilize our town planner, more of a town planner, and not as an administrative technician or secretary. So get him back out in the field in economic development where he should be. That's where his expertise is, that's where his degree is, and really in the best interest of the town of Tilton. Let the land use technician add a few more hours to her. It's still at, we'll make 24 and not benefits. So it doesn't add benefits to you. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns on the amendment to add $5,636 to the budget. Microphone 2.
Judy Tilton, Tilton, New Hampshire.
Microphone 2, please turn on. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just short, sorry. Okay, economic development, getting out to look at more parcels that are available. We have very few commercial parcels still available, and I don't think there's any demonstrated need from the planning department to need these additional houses.
I would guess the moderator will recognize Mr. Scanlon.
John Scanlon. I just want to note that this was not approved by the Budget Committee nor the Select.
Microphone 1.
Julia Harvey, Dunlop Drive. I'd just like to ask him if he could tell me how much that department, planning department, has increased over the last 5 years in overall expenses. That for
Your question was, Mr. Pearson, do you have any numbers on how much that department has increased over the last 5 years?
Not off the top of my head. Give me a few minutes, I can.
Okay, why don't you look that up, and I'll go out to microphone 2 at the top.
Kevin, Kate, someone tell me what a land use technician does.
I will call on Pat Constantino.
Brad, I'd like our town administrator to speak to this, please.
Okay. Jean Forrester, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The land use technician essentially supports the town planner. She would do all the filing, the administrative activities for the town planner, filing things, the backup of any cases that are out there, settling cases, so that he could focus more of his time on economic development. And currently she has 16 hours a week. I just have to say, when I accepted this position, what I heard from the staff, what I heard from the selectmen is that they really wanted to focus on economic development. I'm pretty excited about it because I think there's so much potential in this community, grant opportunities that we haven't had the time or opportunity to go after, and I think this will help.
Before I call up on microphone 2, Selectman Dawson.
Catherine Dawson, Tilton, New Hampshire. Allowing us to have this extra money in the budget would allow the selectmen to look at that department and utilize that land use technician in more ways. It would allow the town planner to do things such as economic development, but not just that. There are a lot of things that go on in that office. He is often disturbed in necessary work that he's doing because people come up and they need help. And the technician isn't there because of such short hours right now. The reason the Board of Selectmen turned this down at first when it came in, it was because it was very close to the end of budgeting season. There wasn't a plan in place, but then we realized that, well, some of us realized that we could develop a plan in the first part of the year and then utilize it for the year. Thank you.
Microphone 2.
We speak of a lot of plans. James Lassford. We speak of a lot of plans. Our current master plan is 10 years out of date. I know of no indication that there's a group of citizens working with anybody in town hall to realistically address our community's vision for the next decade, 2 decades, 5 decades. We continuously focus on little aspects of this plan a lot of that focus is directed to Main Street. But we overlook the bigger, broader underlying impediments called traffic and parking. So we gloss it over, maybe throw a few flower beds here and there. But we're not really planning, if that's the level of planning that we're getting out of our current professional town staff. I'm not particularly enthusiastic of spending any more dollars.
The moderator's going to call on Catherine Dodge, if she would like to respond.
I just wanted to state that there is a committee, an active committee working on the master plan. They stopped for a bit during the budgeting season. We'll start back up again, and we're doing that with the town planner's input.
Microphone 2.
This is my respect. We're under budget law. Any line can be addressed. We're talking about $5,000. If the selectmen can't find $5,000 in a $5 million budget, they can move the lines around any way they see fit. I would say they need to find the money within the budget, move into the line, and see how it works, if that's what their purview is. They have the right to do that. I don't know why we're having an amendment for $5,000 in the line item, that they have the ability to move money around within the current budget. Thank you.
Microphone 2.
Janice Kate. I just have a question, kind of what you guys were just talking about with the position. Do you want the land use technician to be going after these grants? Is that, or do you want your planner to go after the grants?
Going through the moderator, I heard down here they want the planner to go after the grants.
Okay.
This would free up time apparently for the town planner to pursue more grants in economic development.
And just a separate question, the board, the select board and the budget committee do not suggest this amendment, you don't support it?
I think part of that had been explained earlier that some of this was kind of added late on and they didn't have a chance to get it fully planned out. But if there's someone on the select board want to respond.
When the town planner came to us, first of all, he came to us and it was a snowstorm, so he got canceled and then he got rescheduled and it was really close to the end of the date when we had to have this all in place. And we weren't prepared, he wasn't prepared to give us the numbers and the corrected questions needed. Soon after that, when the dates were closed, we got all of that information. And so we did not have a formal meeting with the Board of Selectmen to approve or not approve. The Budget Committee had already passed their budget. So the reason why we brought it here is last year, the year before, Scott had said when we up anybody's salary or wage or hours to be transparent with the legislative body, and that's why we brought it here.
Does that answer your question?
Does Mr. Fogg have another hand? Sorry.
Okay. Peter?
Peter Fogg, East Tilton. I was a no vote early on. I look at this, is it a want or a need? At this point, I think it's a want. I've got other issues that I look at in that whole issue. That's why I was no. The whole board, the board was majority no early on. I think we need to wait and do a little more research.
Microphone 2.
Jason Wright, 570 West Main. Mr. Moderator, I think the ink's way too wet on this. It's too little, too late, not enough information. And I would ask the moderator to call forward the actual town planner himself as the department head and the business unit leader that is affected by this, if he would come forward and speak to us today.
Is Dari here? Town planner is not here. He's in Meredith, or I think they have their own town.
All right, I think that says enough. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead. Excuse me?
I have the answer.
Okay, question had been asked earlier about the amount of increases in the land use office over the last 5 years. Mr. Pearson now has a response.
Yes, Tim Pearson, Caleb Hill, Finance Director. The increase, taking out the new $6,000 that's in the land use budget now, if you don't include that, it's been a 41% increase over 5 years. And that included, during that period of time, adding the land use technician, which didn't exist before that, expanding the hours for that technician, and then also other more minor changes. If you include the $6,000 for economic development that's currently in the 2019 budget line, that increase is 47% over the same period.
Any other questions? So let's go ahead. I don't see any, so I'm going to go ahead and I will read to see if the town will vote. Oh, excuse me. It's an amendment to see if the town behind me. To see if the town will vote to increase the operating budget by $5,636 for additional hours for the land use technician. $5,117 will go into the land use department budget for 8 additional hours per week beginning April 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019. The remaining $519 will go into the administrative line to cover associated costs of Social Security, Medicare, and marriage. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. The amendment fails. I so declare. Any other amendments? Nothing else?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Scott Davis. I have a question. I don't have a minute, but I do have a couple of questions in regards to the budget. On page 13, underneath the highway department, I have concerns and I want to know where we are right now. There's some explanation here that they're modifying the methods of cycling and sand. But last year, we budgeted $55,000 in that line, and we expended $71,663.
I get to get a second.
This year, oh, you want me to get a second?
No.
Okay. This year, we're only budgeting $52,000. I'd like to know where we are right now for the year. How much of that $52,000 we have already expended?
Excuse me. Jane?
Yes, I believe that, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, he's got 54,000 left now. And the problem, or the reason for that is because we had a change of personnel. We have a new director, and he says he's fine with that.
How come we have 54,000 and we're only budgeting this year for 52?
Because I believe Tim.
Tim?
Yeah. I'm looking up the numbers right now.
Oh, okay.
In 2018, as of March, we had spent almost $51,000 out of a $55,000 budget for winter sand and salt. And as of this month, we are at, we have spent $36,492. As was mentioned, the Public Works Director has not only changed the methods, but also I believe the mix, and has done so with, with an idea of trying to more moderate the amount of material that's put down, the frequency with which it's put down, and looking at the most optimum amount for the routes. So that's why we've spent less. So again, we spent $36,492 as of today, and this time last year we had spent almost $51,000.
But out of the 52,000, we've expended almost 60%. Is that what your number that you have? Sorry, it's not
So we've spent $36,492 of, I have to look up, 52,000. That's correct. And the Public Works Director, based on how we apportion the first part of the year versus the second part of the year, usually it's less in the fall, winter, prior to the budget year.
Mr. Moderator, one other question. This is a small thing, but I look on page 12 and we look for the Christmas tree every year. I asked the question as a taxpayer. We spent a lot of money and it's a beautiful park, riverfront park. There's a blue spruce there that could be trimmed up nice. It's about 20 feet. Instead of having a tree that's so large that we put lights on that half of it's lit, half of it's not, I mean, it's a hard tree to be able to put lights and make it look appropriate. Why don't we go ahead and have Christmas tree lighting within the riverfront park as opposed to where we've currently been doing it with that big tree behind the old post office? I think it's more visible, and we wouldn't have to run a huge lift like this. And a lot of times you look at it, I mean, they do the best job they can, but it's a lot of lights to try to light that tree to look appropriate. Just point of order. I just think that we ought to look at it different. We've been doing that other tree for long enough. We have nice trees that could be utilized in the riverfront park, and I'd rather see us do that than waste money on the lift. Thank you.
Okay, the time is now 10:47. I will close the poll in 1 minute. If there is anyone who has not yet voted on warrant Article 4, please do so right now. And in 1 minute, I will close the poll. I don't see anyone heading over. No sense of waiting a minute. Okay, the polls are now closed for Article 4. If my assistant moderators would check both boxes up there, just to be sure that there's no ballots, bring all the ballots down to the front, put them up on the stage, and get a count, please. Okay, we have another proposed amendment to see if the town will vote to reduce line item 0178 4210-20-130, which is the police department salary line for officers' wages by $48,988 to reduce it. And it's been moved by Catherine Dawson. Do we have a second? Seconded by Richard Olson. Catherine, would you like to speak to that, please?
I'm the one selected that actually voted no to this, and I just felt I should bring it. Oh, no, there were two, I'm sorry, there were two. I'm used to being alone, but there were two. If you look at page 15 in your budget, you'll see that this year, that's $48,988 because it's only for a partial year. If you look next year, that cost is $83,443, which will definitely impact the tax rate. And there's only been a couple of times in the past, I think 10 years, that we've actually had an eighth officer, and it was an overlap situation for a very short time. I don't believe we need that eighth officer. I just don't think we need that expense. Our staff currently does an excellent job, and
there's someone who would like to speak to this? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I think Selectman Dawson makes some extremely valid points. Our police department does an outstanding job. I think that we have one of the better police departments, performance-wise, by ratio of officer in our area, potentially in the entire state. But in the numbers that I'm looking at, when we had 8 officers on the street, in 2004, with the 8 officers that we had, if I have my numbers correctly, we were running 9,930 calls at that time. Currently in 2018, we're running almost double the amount of incidents, 18,466. And the only reason I have these numbers is from Article 3 and 4, so I just figured I could share those. The fact that the crimes that are happening in Tilton, these are not petty crimes that our police department responds to. They are crimes that are watched nationwide, and in one particular crime was a worldwide ring that was brought to justice. As I understand it, there's only one police officer on after 3 a.m. And that is because of the current staffing levels that they have. Firsthand, I can tell you that I have called the police department between 3 and 4 a.m. when I'm out for a walk with my dog, and with suspicious subjects in our neighborhood. And our neighborhood is riddled with crime after midnight. And I'm not comfortable at all with having one officer out after 3 a.m. If you read any of the newspaper articles any time of the year, communities are dropping staffing all around us. And I think that puts us in a really bad situation when there's no officers on in other communities after midnight, no officer on at all. And I think that paralyzes the town of Tilton with no immediate backup. I find the after 3 a.m. one officer on, I find extremely alarming. And given the numbers of emergency incidents, I fully support adding the 8th officer. And I thank you for sharing the numbers for the 80,000. I'm very well aware of what the cost of this for a municipal employee, and I have no problem with seeing that 83,000 next year.
I have a question, and I don't know. I think, I'd like to recognize the moderator for a question.
Your name,
do you have any information?
What's your name?
Do you have any information that if the 8th officer were hired, that person would be working the 3 a.m. shift versus not being put on, so that you would still have one at night? And I'm asking that because since you used that as part of your argument, I think that's a fair question.
Thank you, and I'll take that prompt, because I think it's only fair that Chief Poirier speak to why we need this. I'd like to hear from Chief Poirier. Thank you.
Well, at this point, Selectman Dawson asked for the mic next to that.
I will tell you that in conversations I've had with the officers that Catherine Dawson, sorry. Conversations I've had with the officers, one of the reasons for having me as the officer was told to me it would be for that coverage on that late night shift.
Dick Olson, 14 Ruby Lane. I'm just going to speak again to the 8th officer, thinking about all the projects we have. We already know it's money's tight. We're going to do this. We've already jumped the gun on the 24-hour, the dispatch. We should have just kept the mutual aid, but we jumped the gun thinking we were going to get other towns before we had all our ducks in a row. I think we should have our ducks in a row, make sure we have everything set, and make sure we're doing it responsibly, not having highest cost per capita or highest police per capita just because we want an extra officer per shift. There is mutual aid, there's other ways, and there's other ways to schedule that, where we can have overlaps in schedule. I think there's more options that we're trying to lead on. I think we should look for good solutions, not just the expensive, easy solutions, which I think we're doing now. So I think the best thing for us to do would be not to get the 8th officer, cut down on some of our expenses so we can pay for the building and other things, and then later on put an extra officer on. Because right now we can't afford it. We're doing so much right now that we're going to be bonding things and running ourselves into debt, and I don't think that's effective. Thank you.
Microphone 2.
Check for Tilton. My question is there a pro and con of adding the 8th officer as far as finances? I understand that there's an obvious added cost, but is there going to be a cut down on overtime if we have that 8th officer, or is it just an added expense? Is there a savings along with that? I don't know who to address that. Did you get that?
Did I get that? You'll have to excuse me, I was slightly distracted only because I have the vote on Article 4. Would you please repeat that?
My question is, we understand that this is an added expense to having an ad officer along with more coverage. Is there any type of savings with overtime and everything like that by having the officer so it offsets that? So it's not just an added feature or added cost. Is there a reduction in overtime to go along with that so it's not a one-set?
Okay, is there anyone here on the select board that can respond to that? Yes, Peter.
Peter Fogg, East Tilton, looking through the budget, if you hire the 8th officer, the overtime budget gets reduced by $3,000. After you've added the almost $49,000 to the 8th officer.
Mr. Meyer.
Starting in May. Mr. Moderator, can I make another comment, please?
Yes, you may, go right ahead.
Again, I look at this as a want versus need. I'd love to have more officers, but I don't think we can afford it. It's out of, it's more a want. That officer next year alone is 17 cents per thousand on your tax rate. And once she's on, they never go away and they keep going up.
There's obviously here going to be getting into some kind of a debate, but let's try to try to wrap this up. And thank you, Pat. Go right ahead.
We speak about hiring them. In 2017, we had 8 offices. Nadine left, and then shortly after that, Matt Dawson resigned. We rehired someone to replace Matt Dawson and never rehired someone to replace Nadine. The chief is asking to replace the 8th officer. We're not asking to make a new hire for the 8th officer. Well, they're talking about new hire, like it's a new project and it's a new idea. It's not a new idea. We've had 8 offices. We're asking to replace it. The chief went a year and a half without this 8th officer.
Thank you.
I would like to hear from the chief. You denied him to speak at the police study building committee when we asked to hear from the chief's opinion. I would like to hear from the chief on this subject.
I refuse to allow the chief to speak. Excuse me.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to hear from the chief on this subject.
Is the chief here? Please come down. Is there anyone who would object to listening to the police? Please come right down. By the way, on Article 4, there were 85 votes in the affirmative, 17 votes in the negative. It achieved a percentage of 83.3, so Article 4 passes. Mr. Moderator, I'd like to protect my vote. It has been moved.
Restrict consideration.
No, protect your vote.
Protect the vote.
It has been moved by Pat Constantino. I hope you don't mind interrupting the chief, Pat.
No.
To protect her vote, is there a second? Second. Okay, seconded by Chuck Drew. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Article 4 has passed and has been restricted from reconsideration. Chief Cormier.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you for allowing me to speak, and thank you for your support for the department throughout the year. I know these are tough decisions, and I know money can be tight at times, and the board knows I don't like to ask for anything unless I put a lot of thought into it. And I understand that sometimes when I ask for stuff, the answer will be no, and I understand that and respect it. But as my job as a department head, it is to ask when I feel that we need it or the troops feel we need it. And I usually put a lot of thought into it before I come to the board with it. So we have had 8 officers in patrol for 2004, 2013, 2017. The reason I try to keep 8 in patrol is it gives us 2 officers on the street per shift. And I think that as busy as we are and the types of crimes we're seeing and the types of things they're dealing with today compared to 10 or 15 years ago, it's drastically changed. We never had overdoses 15 years ago. It seems like I can't go out on patrol with them now and not have a couple of them in parking lots throughout a shift. And the types of crimes that we're seeing now on midnight shift, burglaries, it was just a couple weeks ago, one of my officers, he's here actually, responded to a burglary at the shop, a burglary alarm at the Shop Express at 2 in the morning, and he was confronted with a smashed-in glass door, and there was no waiting. The suspect and he were as far as Chuck and I are apart from each other right now. When that happens, you got to make a decision. You can't wait for help. You got to take him into custody or not. And so he pulled him out at gunpoint, took him into custody. The guy had a long criminal history for resisting arrest, and obviously he was a dangerous suspect. So these are the type of things that they're seeing on the midnight shift, and without that second officer, we actually dropped down to one officer at midnight, and then there's several shifts throughout the week that we're down to one officer. So I talked to all the officers before I put this in the budget, and went to the budget committee and the board of selectmen, and I said, do you guys really feel this is important? And if you do, then I'll ask for it. I felt they needed it, but I wanted to hear it from them. And I went to every officer on the department, and there are some officers that are very shy and quiet, they don't talk a lot. I wanted to hear from them too, because every one of their opinions is important to me. And everyone I surveyed, to include the dispatchers, said, Chief, you need that second car on the road per shift. We just implode when we don't have 2 cars on the road. So another thing that kind of factored into that request was we do get requests to patrol the trails, the parks, downtown, a lot of extra stuff, which I think is important. We have an investment in our parks. We have an investment in our trails. Every once in a while I hear that someone will say I was walking down the trail and I saw some guy doing drugs down there or something suspicious. Gee, can you patrol those trails more? Well, it's one officer on the street, it's difficult. And I know for some of the board members that was a factor in them supporting me, because they do care about those recreational places as well. So a lot of thought went into this, a lot of discussion at the budget committee level and the board level went into this, because we all do care about every penny that's added to this thing. I just wanted to give it a shot or a look at it from our perspective. If you vote against it, I respect your opinion. I just, as a department, I feel it's my duty to mention it and put it in the budget and hope for the best for these guys, because at the end of the day, I really want them to be safe, and I want us to do the best job we can as a police department for you guys, and make you proud of us. And thank you for all your support.
Yes, Kate. I just had a question. This is just for the salary amount and not for any benefits or other items in the budget that would go up if the hiring of this police officer takes place. Is that right? So the health insurance and dental numbers reflect another person already? Wouldn't that cost go up to add another person? It's already in the budget.
John, and then Tim. John Scanlon.
Just to let you know, the numbers that are in the budget already include the 8th officer and everything it costs for that 8th officer. So it would not, it would only take money out of the budget. If I'd like to say another point here. There's a couple of the senior officers that are now eligible for retirement in the next year, and if they go, naturally their salaries are higher, which would reduce it and would allow for space and for people to move up. So if 2 of our senior officers retire next year, we're going to be looking for another one. We do have somebody that's already been through the vetting process, that has already been trained and has their certification that could come on board with us, and that would be the 8th officer for next.
Just so that you are clear, this was to remove that amount of money, $48,988 from the current budget, not add it in. Yes, microphone 2.
Scott Davis. I want a point of clarification. During this, we have a school resource officer that comes out of the Tilton Police Department, correct? So for 36 weeks, he's here at the school, so the other 16 weeks, plus he has to take vacation, I understand that. That gives us an 8th officer, so this will actually give us a 9th officer. Is that correct?
I think, you know, it's kind of hard for me to read this when I see heads bobbing.
Well, I'm looking at...
Then we get, who's got the answer?
The chief.
During those weeks that school isn't in session, yes, it would be 9 officers. You are correct.
So, if I'm not mistaken, then you're saying last year, within the budget, it was stated that we had 8 officers. We had this 8th officer within last year's budget, but we did not fill the position. Is that correct? Because you said it was stated that we're not asking for anything new. So is this 8th officer that they're looking at taking out this year, was it in our budget last year? That's a question I want to have answered.
Who can answer it over here, please? Tim, do you know the answer?
Not off the top of my head. I'd have to research it.
Chief, what year did Nadine leave? It was 2017, it was in it. Last year, he did not ask for, a year and a half, he did not ask for to fill that position. Nadine left in 2017. We had 8 officers in the budget, and then Matt Dawson left shortly after that last year, and we filled Matt's position. And this year, he added the 8th officer back in to the budget.
So is that it was not in the budget then last year? Because I'm so confused.
That's correct.
It was
He
not
waited,
in the budget.
that's correct, he waited to this year to add it back into the budget.
And I would also like to ask through the moderator if the finance officer can give us, within the dispatch, I think we stood here 2 years ago, when it was presented to us that we had to change, we were changing the dispatch so that we could provide more adequate response times to the patrol officers. It was presented to us that if they had someone pulled over, that sometimes they got stood on when they were using Belknap County dispatch. How much did that dispatch department increase 2 years ago? I see in the book it was at the 3-year average is 99,000, but that's not a true figure because they're averaging the last couple of years within that, I should say.
Mr. Pearson, can you come up with a number for that, please?
Well, I'll have to look it up. I can tell you that Selectman Constantino was correct. In the 2018 budget, there was no budget for Officer Nadine after he left. I'll look at it.
Well, Tim's looking that up. Jason, you had something?
Well, it is related to what Tim's looking at. It's like, I guess when I'm looking at the top of page 15, the 3-year average of 15 through 17, we're running in the low 900s. So I guess that's, when Tim gets that, why is there such a lift from the smart map is 2015, 16, 17? Why is there like this 60K lift? So, and I'll be transparent. I'll admit I was probably one of the guys who wanted to come here today and leverage $50,000 back towards the land purchase, but and I still have questions if we use terminology of one car on the street. It's my understanding that there are promotions to patrol supervision and there are a lot of take-home vehicles and a lot of take-home, there's supervisor. The word on the street, if the one car on the street, I'll tell you about the word on the street because I'm top-heavy leadership. And I can't speak to that. I'm not in the business of that. I didn't grow up in that line of work. So that's some of the questions that I have for the Board of Selectmen is, are we top-heavy in leadership? Do we have the appropriate amount of leadership? John made a comment regarding potentially retiring and creating some relief to the payroll. Well, some of these guys have been working their butts off and looking to get promoted, and I support that upward movement. That's why we have the loyalty of the team that we do with the guys on the street that have hung out
and stuck it out with Tilton as long as they have, because they've been well taken care of and respected and have that opportunity to grow. So I don't believe that there's payroll relief when somebody retires at the top, because I believe that promotions can and should be followed, and that, other qualified, willing.
I'm trying to follow what.
Well, the question is why is there a 60K lift from the 3-year average of 2015 to 17
Well,
to today?
get that
If we've had this 8 position all along, but we just haven't used it, where's the lift of money coming from? We've been on the books for it all
Mr.
along.
Pearson, can you come up with a response, please? Pat, please, I'm trying to get a response from Tim right now.
So Tim Pearson, Finance Director, I would say that there were a number of factors that caused that raise. First of all, there was a new collective bargaining agreement that went into effect during that time period. So we're now going into the third year of a 3-year, we're in the second year currently of a 3-year collective bargaining agreement. And prior to that, the salaries were lower. In addition, we changed the type of prosecutor we had. So prior to this, we had someone that was on the police force as a Group 2 or uniformed employee that was also the prosecutor. And following that, the board had an opportunity to hire an attorney prosecutor who had been a former police officer and was now a member of the bar. So there were a number of more minor things that caused that increase over that period of time. So that's the answer to that. The answer, if I understood the question on the support staff and dispatchers, prior to November of 2017, we had 1 full-time dispatcher, and now we have in the budget 4 full-time dispatchers. So there's been a, yes.
Pat, do you wish to speak?
3 and a part-time. So in any event, that's what's accounted for the increase there. In that support staff line, there's also another employee that is the administrative assistant that's always been budgeted in that particular line. Hopefully that answers your question.
Scott, did that answer your question?
Did you give the percentage of increase within the department? When we went from before we had the 24-hour dispatch till now that we have?
It's 16-hour dispatch. The percent increase would have been about 150%.
Thank you. Pat, do you wish to add anything else? Anything else, Jason?
Yes, quickly. Now that I have that, thank you, that makes a little more sense, and I do support the 8th if it puts us back into a place and time that we were operating at, and safety and equal coverage on all the shifts, and I definitely don't want to be on the books agreeing. I was originally proposed, but I'm not going to be on the books agreeing with Dickles on just about anything, so I support the filling the safety.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Olson.
Dick Olson, 14 Ruby Lane. I am against this 8th officer, because if you look in the back of the room, we have a few officers that are on duty in uniform, and we can make that schedule happen, but we can't hang it.
I'm here on my own time.
Then I'm sorry to say, but I think if we can make different solutions that actually work, and I think we should dig into different scheduling solutions so the overlap isn't the entire night, and we can overlap staff through different shifts and make the shifts staggered. Maybe that can help our solution without adding an extra officer, without incurring a big cost. Because with our costs, with the dispatch, the 8th officer, the land improvements we're trying to do, the land we bought, the buildings we want to build, the fire station and police in the next few years, we need to plan, we need to buckle down. And I think we need to save our money and put it towards things that are going to help our future, and including our kids and everybody else. We don't want to leave that for the giant bill.
Mr. Moderator.
Just microphone.
My name's Tom Damon. I live in Calefield Road. Besides the moderator and myself, there's nobody that lives any further away from town. It's me and the moderator. And I've been hearing over Tilton talk that there was a burglary in Lancaster Hill Road this week. And I've been hearing about people sneaking into people's yards in the middle of the night and doing mischief. Now, I'm a senior. I can't escape, I can't run. My wife can't do the same. And if there's a traffic accident down a Mosquito Bridge, and somebody's breaking into somebody's home, down on School Street or Taylorville Road or Pest House Road or one of those places like that, where's the help going to come from? Where's the law enforcement going to come from? State police, an hour away. There's no officer on duty in Sanderson. There isn't any. We have one patrol officer at midnight in this town for 3,600 people. We've got to have this second officer, in my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Thank you.
We have someone behind you who hasn't spoken yet. Do you mind?
I was just going to ask you to recognize him.
Yes. I think I do recognize her.
Kathy Mitchell, I move the question.
Is there a second? There is a second.
Who seconded Mr.
Dan Norton, second. I am going to read you that. To see if the town will vote to reduce the line item 0178-4210-20130, police department salaries, officer wages by $48,988. That is the motion to reduce the budget by that amount of money. Question?
Point of order, Mr. Moderator. I was standing at the microphone to make a point, and then you recognized her first. So I believe the moderator's rules state that if anyone is at the microphone, they will be heard, even if the question is called.
I will let you speak. However, we also, in the moderator's rules, say that if someone's at the microphone and somebody else hasn't spoken yet, we'll go right ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate you allowing me this time. I've been trying to stay contained over there and not say anything, but it keeps racing through my mind, gives me anxiety to the fact of, and Mr. Olson's point about money and being conservative. I look at this much differently. This is a high-risk, high-frequency job. The high-frequency part comes, it's Tilton, New Hampshire. There are armed robberies. They pull their guns after midnight. I can name off 3 incidents, 2 that come probably to everyone's mind. There was an officer shot in the face and killed in Epsom, New Hampshire. There was an officer shot and killed in Franconia, New Hampshire. All right? They were alone. There was no backup within miles. Okay? We're asking these officers to work in uniform with a gun that's pulled off them. To me, this does not, if this boils down to money, can you imagine what we're going to pay in a workers' comp claim if these officers are shot like Jeremy Sharon was and the sergeant that was shot in Franconia? That's when we'll pay.
I'll read it one more time. I'll leave out the line item though, I think. To see if the town of Tilton will vote to reduce police department salaries in the office of wages line by $48,988. Is it clear? This is to reduce the budget. All those in favor of this article to reduce the budget, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Nay. The vote fails. The amendment fails, and we are back now to the original article. I have one more amendment, which should not be a surprise. To see if the town will vote to increase line item 0164-4140.30-130, which is the salary line of the TCTC, tax collector, town clerk, by increasing the line by $1,823 to a total of $62,506. motion is being made, or the amendment is being made by Pat Constantino. Pat, would you like to move that, please?
So moved.
Is there a second? Seconded by Jane Alden. Pat, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, our town clerk tax collector is an elected official, therefore, unlike our employees who get merit increases that are executed by the selectmen every year, she has to come to town meeting for her raise. And that is a 3% increase in the budget. So I'm in favor of it.
Anyone else care to address this? Originally, I was going to call for a ballot vote, but I'm thinking of the time. No, seriously, I don't believe that anyone's individual page should be put up where people have to stand. I'm not going to ask you to stand, but I will call right now since no one else is in line to speak. I will go ahead and call. Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Carroll.
I'd just like to ask what the percentage increase in town clerk's pay has been over the last 3 years.
The percentage of increase for
The salary of town clerk.
the town clerk?
Sorry.
Speak English.
Yep.
Americans.
That'll take me a minute to find. Off the top of my head, I believe it's been between 3 and 4%. 1 year it was 4%, and I believe one other year it was 3%.
So this is a fairly small increase. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, the motion is to see if the town will increase the line item 01644140.30130 salary for the town clerk tax collector to increase that by $1,823 to a total of $62,506. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. It passes, and I so declare. Couple of other minor items. No, we still have to vote on the whole budget. Jim?
Mr. Moderator, the new amount for the budget committee for the operating budget is $5,650,354.
Let me repeat that again.
$5,650,354.
$650,534?
No. 5,650,354.
Yeah, okay. I got those two numbers reversed, I must be dyslexic. Oh my goodness. Okay. Any discussion further? Okay, let's see if the town to vote to raise and appropriate for the budget committee's recommended sum for the new sum is $5,650,354 for the general municipal operating systems. The recommended amounts do not include the special or individual warrant articles previously addressed. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Unanimous, I so declare. Now, a couple of little housekeeping items. Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Each year, we put on this town meeting, and it's grueling, and it's very painstaking to get all of the information, and some of the information you can't even imagine what goes through our minds to say, do we have the right information or not enough information? But on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, I want to thank Gail Bestick, Jeannie Forrester, and Tim Pearson to have our backs every year to put this on, because without having all of the information at our fingertips for you at the meetings, I just can't even thank them enough. So on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, thank you, Gail.
And I would like to add, this is actually only part 2 of the annual town meeting. Part 1 was what happened on Tuesday. I also want to thank all the ballot clerks and the supervisors of the checklist, and even the employees, by the way, down in the public works. You know, what you don't realize is those people came up here after hours and had to set everything up for voting, and then, you know, and it's all taken down and hauled back and forth. So there are a lot of people every year that are responsible for making things happen. So anyway, John Scanlon.
Just wanted to remind everybody that on the 21st, we have a public forum on reevaluation. So a lot of you have questions on how that works and how it's going to affect things and that. And that's at 6 p.m. at the town hall, and that will help to educate everybody on the process of the town-wide reevaluation. Thanks.
And one last announcement from me, and that is that everyone who was newly elected on Tuesday should come down here right away after the meeting so that Cindy can swear you in. And at this point, it would be appropriate to accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved and seconded by Pat Constantine and Tuesday. All those in favor of adjournment say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. You made me a believer. I appreciate it. I'm going to be around a lot. I've got a lot of homework to do for next year's election, so I know I'm going to pick everybody's brains. Yeah, no, thanks. I had a good change. I did it knowing I have to run next year because it's 1 year, or strategy. I do appreciate your support. No, you guys do a great job. Right. This is what gives us that. And when they just package things as adding, you get, that's what people shut down. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.